Flashback of decades earlier, when John's parents survived a shipwreck, but got stranded in the African jungle. John's father kept himself and his pregnant wife hidden in a treehouse. Sadly, she died after giving birth to John. This origin story just doesn't slap as hard without Phil Collins. A few days later, John's father was also attacked and killed by a band of gorillas. The little John was then adopted by the Mangani, a race of apes. When he grew up, John left Africa for Greystoke Estate in Britain with his American wife, Jane, and now he has embraced a new life as a wealthy nobleman. Back in the present, John goes to his wife, who is in the midst of conducting a class with a group of children. Later, he privately informs her about the expedition which fills her with excitement. John initially tries to forbid her from accompanying him as it is not safe. However, he eventually relents when she insists. She's seen those ABS. She knows he's a monkey man. The very next day, Jane and George set off on their journey to the Congo. Along the way, they come across a group of lions, and John interacts with them affectionately. Jane then tells George that John has known these lions since they were cubs. After a while, they arrive at Boma, where they are warmly welcomed by the Cuba village, same place where John and Jane spent their youth. It turns out that Jane's father used to teach English here. The villagers appear to be delighted by their arrival. Jane also reunites with her childhood friend, Wasambu. Later that night, they gather around a bonfire, and Jane shares John's past with George. She recounts how John adapted to life in the forest and became strong. According to Jane, John's ape mother, Kala, loved him as her own, whereas his ape brother, Akuch, treated him with kindness and respect. She also reveals how their first encounter in the forest was, legend has it, he threw poo at her. Elsewhere, Leon and his men find out John's whereabouts and take a steamship towards their location. They attack the Cuba village in the middle of the night, hold the chief at gunpoint, and instruct him to kneel. However, the latter refuses, claiming that the chief never kneels down. As a result, Leon mercilessly shoots him to death. John fights some of Leon's men, but he is ultimately captured by the overwhelming number of guards. After being tied up, he is taken to their steamship along with some more villagers, including Jane and Wasambo. Before reaching the ship, George intervenes by opening fire towards the enemies. Somehow manages to rescue John, but Leon and his men sail away with Jane and the captive villagers. In the morning, John is ashamed of the destruction caused by those who were actually targeting him. Believing that the bad guys are en route to Boma's mountain, John, along with several villagers, devises a shortcut route that will get them there before Leon's ship. Our hero then decides to become his Tarzan persona once more. Here comes the loincloth. After this, the group wastes no time and makes their way towards the forest. During this, George struggles to keep pace with the new gang. On arriving at a cliff, George asks John about how he's planning to catch the moving train, to which John replies, "Gravity press of one-liner for a monkey." Then he and his comrades jump off the cliff. George hesitates, but he has no other choice but to follow suit. Meanwhile, on the steamship, Jane tells Leon that they are in the Congo by royal invitation. Much to her surprise, Leon reveals that he was the one who orchestrated the invitation so that he can capture Tarzan and deliver him to Manga. Later on, Jane is released from her restraints and is taken to Leon's quarters for dinner. On the way, she passes by Wasambo, who is caged above the water. A guard threatens to drown him if she tries anything stupid. During this meal, Leon shares his wish to become a governor general by saving his king from bankruptcy. Back in the forest, John carries George on his back, and the team swings from vines at high speed. They land onto the moving train, which is transporting Belgian soldiers and enslaved Congolese. This only fuels John with rage, and as a result, takes down the soldiers. Just then, the soldiers' leader walks in, but John kicks him off the train in seconds. A short while later, an engineer is brought to them, who swears that he is only building a bridge for Leon's army use. John asks for more details. In response, the engineer tells him about Leon's plan to take over the Congo, sanctioned by Leopold. According to him, Leon is building forts across the region, linked by railways and river travel. They are expecting an army of 20,000 mercenaries, who will all be arriving soon. With Leopold bankrupt, Leon needs the diamonds of Opar to pay for the army. The next day, John and George plan their next moves. Upon gathering the necessary proof to expose Leopold, John and George leave the proof with the Cuba warriors, asking him to deliver it to Boma. The two of them then set off on foot, continuing their journey through Mangani territory. On their way, George wonders if John can actually talk to the animals. Shortly after, he gets a chance to see it happen. A bunch of ostriches pass by them, and one of them is apparently telling George to stay clear. Skarsgård's just staring at the green screen saying, "I'm talking a what?" After some time, they arrive at Mangani region, where they are confronted by a group of guerrillas. John then explains how things will work. He says that a cut, who was once his brother, now considers him as a deserter. He asks George not to intervene under any circumstances. Following this, a fierce battle ensues between John and a cut, with a cute, swiftly overpowering him. When he approaches George, John instructs him to kneel down. As George complies, Acute and the other guerrillas depart, letting them live. But now, John sustains a painful bite on his back, so George has to use ants, stitching up the wound. The duo then decides to rest in the same area. For a while sitting by the fire, George confides in John about his past, disclosing that he was once a mercenary himself. He admits to having engaged in a lot of stuff that he's not proud of, and deep down, he fears he might be no different than those Belgians. They make good chocolate though, so it's okay. The following morning, on the steamship, Jane shouts something to Wasambu, his native language. This infuriates the guards, prompting them to drop the cage into the water. Fortunately, Jane jumps into the water as well and breaks Wasambu out. They swim to the shore and escape into the jungle. Jane instructs Wasambu to rally the other tribesmen, as she knows that Leon's men will pursue her. Short time later, she enters the Mangani region, where she encounters a group of guerrillas. She promptly kneels into bows in submission. Soon after, Leon arrives with his men. Leon cautiously approaches Jane and asks her to come with her. She agrees on the condition that they won't hurt the apes. But as they slowly walk backwards, Leon's men open fire, killing several guerrillas. John can hear the gunshots and Jean's screaming from afar. As a result, he immediately swings all the way there, arriving just in time to save his ape brother from a Belgian bullet. Amid the battle, Leon and his inner circle manage to flee, still taking Jane as their hostage. They make their way to Mbonga's tribe. On the other hand, George is wandering around the forest, trying to find John. The scene then shifts to a flashback that explains Manga is so determined rapture Tarzan. Years ago, Mbonga's son unknowingly killed John's foster mother, Kala, while hunting the Mangani territory. In retaliation, John brutally killed Mbonga's son. As John held the dying Kala in his arms, Mbonga's people brought his son's body back. In the present, John follows Leon and his men into Mbonga's territory, where he is greeted by the entire tribe. He tries to sort things out with Manga, but the latter isn't ready to hear anything. A one-on-one confrontation ensues between John and Manga. Soon after, John gains the upper hand, holding Manga at knife point, prompting the entire tribe to encircle him. However, John is not alone, as a coot shows up with several guerrillas behind him. Moments later, George also arrives and enlightens Manga about Leon's sinister plan. He asserts that Leon is their enemy, not John, as Leon intends to wipe out Mbonga's entire tribe in order to capture the land. This revelation convinces Manga, who then takes a step back. On the other hand, Leon transports Jane and the diamonds to Boma, where the mercenary army approaches the shoreline. John and George also reach the scene, realize that they cannot defeat the overwhelming number of mercenaries head on. As a result, John comes up with an idea. He sends a stampede of wildebeest through the town, overrunning Leon's men and demolishing the valley completely. Amidst this commotion, Cuba warriors also arrive by train and free their captive villagers. Sensing the imminent danger, Leon orders the diamonds be shipped into the steamship. He also tries to drag Jane along with him, but it's already too late, so he ends up leaving her. Meanwhile, John runs with the stampede, jumps atop a buffalo, and swings through the harbor, attacking some armed men. Asgard still in front of the screen saying, "I'm doing what?" He soon rescues Jane before pursuing Leon. Leon already on his steamship, preparing to deliver the diamonds his corrupt financier Mr. Froome, along with the mercenaries. Meantime, comes across a vintage machine gun, which he uses to destroy the steamship, causing it to start sinking. Just then, John climbs up the sinking vessel to confront Leon. In their intense struggle, Leon chokes John rosary beads. Sure, that's what they are, ties him to the ship, Despite this, John fights back by trapping Leon between his legs and applying pressure until the beads snap from his neck. He then uses the sound of a mating call to summon crocodiles and leaves Leon to their mercy. John escapes the ship just before it explodes. He then returns back to his wife, kisses her as the villagers all cheer. Damn, they're so hot. Oh my God, so freaking hot. In the aftermath of these events, George returns to London and presents an open letter to the Prime Minister exposing enslavement and mistreatment the Congolese people. 1 year later, John and Jane have relocated to Africa, where they welcome their first child. The movie ends with Tarzan swinging through the trees with his ape family. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.